On a bustling Manhattan street, Maggie, a homeless veteran, sat unnoticed, her life reduced to a corner on 5th Avenue. Worn and weathered, she carried the weight of her sacrifices, her marine jacket the only hint of her brave past. One day, everything changed when Donald Trump, on his way to an important meeting, stopped in his tracks. Drawn by something in her quiet dignity, he crossed the street to speak with her, discovering her remarkable story of service and loss. What followed was a life-changing act of kindness that not only transformed Maggie's world, but also sparked a movement. This is a tale of resilience, compassion, and the extraordinary power of seeing humanity in someone society had overlooked. The streets of Manhattan were alive with the usual hustle and bustle. Crowds of people brushed past each other, their lives moving at breakneck speed, each caught in their own world. Amidst this chaos sat Margaret Maggie O'Connor, a homeless woman in her late 60s, on the corner of 5th Avenue. Her appearance was modest and unassuming, tangled grey hair peeking out from under a knit cap, a worn military jacket draped over her thin shoulders. Her belongings, packed into a small, battered suitcase, sat beside her like silent sentinels. For many passers-by, Maggie was just another unfortunate soul lost to the city's indifference. But behind her tired eyes and weathered face lay a story of immense courage, sacrifice, and resilience, a story no one cared to hear. Maggie was a former Marine who had served her country with honor, only to return to a life that slowly unraveled. The death of her husband, mounting medical bills, and an indifferent bureaucracy had stripped her of everything, leaving her to fend for herself on the streets she once marched through with pride. One crisp afternoon, Maggie's life took an unexpected turn. Parked across the street was a sleek black limousine, its polished surface gleaming under the autumn sun. From it emerged none other than Donald Trump, instantly recognizable in his tailored suit and signature demeanor. He was on his way to an important meeting when his gaze fell on the lone figure sitting on the curb. Something about Maggie caught his attention. Perhaps it was the jacket with the unmistakable Marine Corps insignia. Or maybe it was the way she sat with quiet dignity, despite her obvious struggles. Whatever the reason, Trump found himself crossing the street toward her, his security detail trailing behind him, visibly confused by the detour. "Good afternoon," Trump greeted, his tone uncharacteristically soft. Maggie looked up, startled. Recognition flickered across her face. It wasn't every day that a former president stopped to talk to her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maggie," she replied cautiously, clutching her suitcase a little tighter. "What's your story, Maggie?" he pressed gently, crouching to meet her at eye level. For a moment, Maggie hesitated. Years of being ignored or dismissed had conditioned her to believe her story wasn't worth telling. But something in Trump's expression, a genuine curiosity, encouraged her to speak. Maggie recounted her time in the Marines, her pride in serving her country, and the challenges she faced upon returning to civilian life. She spoke of her husband, a fellow veteran who had succumbed to cancer, and the financial spiral that followed. By the time she finished, her voice was trembling, but she stood tall, her pride intact. Trump listened intently, his usual bravado replaced by a solemn demeanor. When she finished, he stood up and pulled out his phone. "Let's fix this," he said decisively. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind. Trump contacted his team and arranged for Maggie to stay in a nearby hotel while he worked on a more permanent solution. He called veteran organizations, reached out to his extensive network, and used his influence to ensure Maggie received the help she deserved. The media caught wind of the story, and soon cameras were flashing outside the hotel where Maggie was staying. When asked why he had intervened, Trump's response was simple: no one who serves this country should be left behind. But Trump didn't stop there. He invited Maggie to a charity event for veterans, where she was the guest of honor. Standing on stage, Maggie shared her story with an audience that included prominent figures from various industries. She spoke not just for herself, but for countless other veterans who had been overlooked and forgotten. The crowd was moved to tears, and donations poured in for veteran support programs. Maggie's voice became a rallying cry for change, and her story shed light on the systemic issues that left so many veterans struggling. As for Maggie, her life took a dramatic turn. Trump ensured she received medical care, a new apartment, and the support she needed to rebuild her life. She reconnected with her estranged daughter and even found a sense of purpose volunteering at a local veterans center, helping others like herself. The story didn't just end with Maggie's transformation. It sparked a national conversation about veteran care and homelessness, leading to policy changes and increased funding for support programs. And what of Donald Trump? Love him or hate him, this act of kindness reminded the world of the impact one person could have when they chose to see someone not as a statistic, but as a human being. In the months that followed, Maggie's life blossomed in ways she never imagined. She became an advocate for veterans, sharing her story at events and in interviews. Her resilience and courage inspired countless others, proving that it's never too late to reclaim your life. As for the corner of 5th Avenue where Maggie once sat, it transformed into more than just a spot on a busy Manhattan street. It became a living testament to the power of human kindness and resilience. Over time, locals began referring to it as Maggie's Corner, a name that carried her story far and wide. Passers-by often paused there, not to rush past, but to reflect, inspired by the tale of a homeless veteran whose life was changed by one unexpected act of compassion. Charity groups and community volunteers started gathering there to distribute food and essentials to those in need, turning it into a hub of hope. Flowers and thank you notes for Maggie appeared, left by strangers who had heard of her incredible journey. The transformation of this simple street corner was a poignant reminder that even the most overlooked places could become symbols of unity, compassion, and second chances. This wasn't just Maggie's story or Trump's story. It was a story about the power of connection, the importance of listening, and the belief that everyone, no matter how lost, has the potential to be found. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey. Maggie's story reminds us all of the strength it takes to endure and the courage it takes to help others. If her resilience has inspired you, consider reaching out to those in need in your community. Sometimes, the smallest gesture can lead to the biggest change. This is Storyscape, where we bring you tales that move your heart and stir your soul. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, stay inspired.